New details are beginning to emerge after 4 children were found shot in a car at an Angleton gas station. A 13-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl died. An 8-year-old boy and 9-year-old girl still recovering.
I drive this route all the time. Texas. Straight, flat highway, stars so big you can almost touch them. But on a random Saturday morning, well before the sun even thought about coming up, at 4:48 a.m., something utterly irreversible happened on the side of a highway in Brazoria County. Something so dark, so completely broken, it's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about motherhood. Picture this. It's dark, dead quiet. A deputy rolls up to a Shell gas station, the kind that's just an oasis on a long stretch of road. They're responding to a 911 call from a woman. And what they find isn't a flat tire or some minor fender bender. No, what they find is a white Audi sedan pulled right up to the pump. And inside that car, in the passenger seat and the back, are 4 children, shot. 2 of them already gone. And the woman who made the call? She's standing right there. And when the investigators finally got her down to the station, and they asked her about the nightmare they just found, she didn't talk about panic or regret. She didn't talk about a monster breaking into her life. No, she looked them dead in the eye, and she said something that chills me to my core. She said she hadn't called 911 at all. She said she had called the devil. Look, I know that hook was heavy. This story, it's going to be a gut punch, but it's one we need to talk about. We need to look at the darkness straight on so we can understand how tragedy this senseless happens. If you're like me, if you're obsessed with the truth behind the headlines, then hit that subscribe button right now. We're on the road to a major milestone, and honestly, every single one of you in this community makes this deep dive possible. Smash that like button for these beautiful kids, and let's get into the heart of what went wrong in Angleton, Texas. Before we talk about the darkness, we have to talk about the light. Because there were 4 lives in that car. 4 kids who, just days before this horrifying night, were doing what kids do. They were a family that had only recently moved to Texas, Porter specifically, which is a quiet little suburb in Montgomery County, north of Houston. They were starting fresh. They came all the way from Georgia looking for a new chapter. We know the 3-year-old was a little girl named Amora, just 3 years old. Her grandfather described her as having this beautiful smile. Think about that, a 3-year-old, totally innocent, just starting to learn about the world to form full sentences. Her life a tiny, perfect new coin, just snatched away. Then you have the big brother, the 13-year-old boy. He's the one who died right there in the front seat, according to the documents. And I think about him, man. 13! That age where you're not quite a kid, not quite a man. You're trying to figure out the world, you're protective. And what we hear from the neighbors, it tells you everything you need to know about the kind of person he was already becoming. One neighbor, who saw them all the time, said he was very sweet. This kid, the 13-year-old, he would walk to the daycare and bring his little sister back home in the afternoons. He was taking care of her. He'd wave at the neighbors. He was friendly with their little Yorkie dog. This was his routine, getting his little sister, being the man of the house in his own way. That's resilience. That's a good kid trying to be a positive force in a family that was apparently struggling in ways no one on the outside could see. Can you imagine the sense of responsibility he carried? That's his daily routine, getting her from daycare, making sure she got home safe. And then you have the 2 who survived, the 8-year-old and the 9-year-old. They're in stable condition now, which is a miracle, honestly. But here's the thing that gets me, that makes this whole story feel so much heavier. These 2 kids, they survived this horror, and they have already been interviewed by the investigators. They were cooperating. They lived through a moment of absolute, unimaginable terror. And now they have to process that their mother, the person they relied on for everything, is the one who put them there. It just breaks your heart because the neighbor said, and this is a quote, They looked like just happy kiddos. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. They were just happy kids, man. Walking their dog, waving, going to daycare, no red flags. Which begs the question, how quickly and how completely does a person have to brake before they can turn a white Audi into a slaughterhouse? The woman at the center of this, Oninda Romelus, she was 31. Joe records put her home address in Porter. So we're talking about a drive of an hour and a half, maybe more, from her house in Montgomery County all the way down to this remote Shell gas station in Angleton, Brazoria County. So this isn't some impulsive flash of rage that happened in the kitchen. This was a road trip, a deliberate pre-dawn journey with 4 sleeping children in the back of the car. And the evidence suggests the shooting happened inside the vehicle, somewhere along that long, dark stretch of road. What was going through her mind during that hour-and-a-half drive? Was there silence? Was she humming a lullaby? Did the 13-year-old wake up and ask, "Mom, where are we going?" The court documents, and this is where the story pivots from just a sad crime to something truly terrifying, they give us a horrifying peek into her state of mind. At 4:48 a.m., a call comes into the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. It's Romelus. She's at the gas station. Deputies are dispatched immediately, expecting what? A medical emergency? A breakdown? But surveillance video from the gas station shows something even chilling. It shows Romelus pulling up to the pump in her white Audi. She gets out of the car, and she does something completely mundane, something a person would do on a routine road trip. She pumps $56 worth of gas. She's on the phone, too, just standing there, filling up the tank while her 4 children are inside the car, bleeding. She's detained right there. She's calm, apparently. She's alert, but according to the detective who interviewed her, she was, quote, not making any sense. And this is the moment the true investigation begins. They take her to the jail, they sit her down, and that's when the darkness spills out.
When you interview a suspect in a crime this brutal, you're looking for a crack, a flicker of remorse, a sudden emotional outburst that explains the inexplicable. What they got from Oninda Romulus was something else entirely. Something cold. Something that suggested a complete break from reality. She was paranoid, looking around the room, staring at the door like someone was coming for her. When they pressed her, trying to understand why these 4 innocent lives were just shattered, she hesitated. She allegedly said she couldn't talk about it. Then, the real horror show started. She started talking about the victims being dead to her. She started talking about a threat. And this is the part that was so disturbing it was immediately plastered all over the court documents. She looked at the investigator and allegedly said, word for word, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them." The detective, trying to maintain protocol, trying to understand what the "it" was, asked simply, "Do what?" And her alleged response? 3 horrifying words that sealed her fate. "Kill them all." Can you even imagine being the detective in that room, sitting across from a mother who just confessed to executing 2 of her children and critically wounding 2 others, and she says it with the cold, detached logic of someone preparing for a war that only exists inside her own head? And it gets worse, man. When they brought up the 911 call she made, the call that brought law enforcement to the scene, she denied it. She said she never called 911. She said, instead, she had called the devil. This is not a case of rage. This is not even about anger. This is something darker. This is a story about a mind that had completely shattered and the devastating, irreversible cost of that fracture. The search for a motive for why this road to hell happened immediately shifted from domestic dispute to a full-blown mental health crisis. Romulus, who apparently had a past involving minor drug and DUI misdemeanors in Georgia, was now talking about devils and about being ready to work, a remark the detectives noted did not make sense in context.
The children, her own blood, were simply collateral damage in a delusional, paranoid war. She was booked into the Brazoria County Jail charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The total bond? $14 million, a number meant to ensure she never sees the light of day again. But the questions remain. How long was she planning this? And what did those kids see on the road to Angleton? The interrogation was over, but the investigation, it was just getting started. When a crime scene is a moving vehicle, the real answers are often back where the trip started. An hour and a half north of Angleton in Porter, Texas, was the house, the quiet suburban rental where Romulus and her 4 kids had been living for just a few short months. The Brazoria County Sheriff's Office wasn't working alone. They quickly brought in the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office to execute a warrant on the home. Imagine being the neighbor who just saw this family, the one who saw the 13-year-old walking his little sister home from daycare, and now you see the whole street lit up with flashing lights. You realize the quiet, reserved mother who was a tax agent, a detail confirmed by her own family, is the center of a national horror story. Neighbors told reporters they were stunned. They couldn't connect the dots. Romulus was quiet, kept to herself. The children were happy kiddos. It's that chilling moment of realizing the most devastating darkness can hide behind the most ordinary suburban facade. The neighbor who spoke out just kept saying she couldn't believe it. She said, "Just heartbreaking to think that anything could be so bad that you have to take your children's lives. I don't understand." And that's the question that hung over that house as the detectives went inside. What was found? What dark catalyst was waiting in that home in Porter that pushed a mother to drive over 70 miles with a weapon to end her children's lives? The sheriff's office was tight-lipped about the exact evidence they recovered from the home. We know they were looking for anything, a note, a diary, a medication, a sign that the paranoia and the kill them all statements had been escalating. Because remember, this wasn't a spontaneous act. This was an hour-and-a-half road trip to hell fueled by $56 of gas. What we do know, based on the investigation, is that the violence happened in the car, the victim's car, which means the physical crime scene was small, cramped, and intimate. It means that the violence was delivered from within the family unit itself. The forensic evidence from the car, the ballistics, the blood spatter, that's the cold hard proof that confirms Romulus as the shooter. The fact that the 13-year-old was found lifeless in the front passenger seat while the 3 younger children were in the back paints a horrific picture of the sequence of events, but the investigators haven't publicly detailed that timeline. Frankly, we don't need those details to feel the weight of this horror. We also learned there were previous signs of trouble, small red flags that looked gigantic in hindsight. Romulus had prior misdemeanor charges in Georgia, including a DUI and marijuana possession. And crucial for the long term, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, which is CPS, confirmed they were investigating the incident. Anytime children are involved in the traumatic event, and especially one of this magnitude, CPS steps in. This is about protecting the 2 surviving kids, the 8- and 9-year-olds who are now stable in the hospital. This story doesn't end with the arrest. It pivots into a long, grueling legal and psychiatric battle. Aninda Romulus is sitting in the Brazoria County Jail right now. Total bond? $14 million. It's symbolic. It's the justice system's way of saying, you are a danger to this community and to yourself. But the moment Romulus claimed she called the devil and talked about people doing it to me, this case stopped being just a simple murder case. It became a question of competency. I've covered enough of these stories to know the playbook. The defense attorney, which she now has, is going to immediately request a mental competency evaluation. They have to. You can't stand trial if you can't assist in your own defense. If the court finds her incompetent to stand trial, or IST, the legal proceedings halt. She would be civilly committed to a state mental health facility, not a regular prison, where they try to restore her competency. This is an essential protection in our system, but it adds years, sometimes decades, to a case. And here's the grim reality of these types of cases. If doctors determine Romulus is permanently incompetent, that she cannot, with treatment, be restored to a state where she understands the charges against her and can participate in her defense, the court has a tough choice. In some jurisdictions, charges for the most serious crimes can even be dismissed after a period of several years, although that's rare and involves a complex legal process. For now, Texas will fight to keep those charges active and prosecute her once she is deemed fit. But the timeline? It's completely uncertain. The focus shifts from punishment to psychiatric restoration. While the legal battle begins for the accused mother, the fight for the children's future is already underway. The surviving 8-year-old and 9-year-old and the remains of the two victims, Amora and her 13-year-old brother, are now under the protection of the state. CPS has temporary custody. The family court will be working to find suitable permanent placement, whether that's with the grandfather who spoke out in Georgia or another relative. I keep coming back to the 8-year-old and the 9-year-old. They saw the unthinkable. They were the key witnesses to their siblings' murder. The weight of that trauma, the recovery they face, both physical and psychological, is immense. They've been interviewed. They're cooperating. They are the strongest pieces of evidence the state has, but they are also just children, trying to process a betrayal that is utterly biblical in its scope. What does justice even look like here? Is it a prison sentence for a mind that was clearly broken? Or is it a lifetime in a secure mental facility? And for the two little survivors, is justice simply the chance to heal, to find love and stability away from the darkness that their mother brought into their lives? It's a messy question, and the legal system is rarely equipped for this level of raw, painful nuance. We will follow the competency hearings and the eventual trial no matter how long it takes. But we need to remember what this whole thing is about. It's about 4 kids who just wanted to grow up. If this story shook you, don't just close the browser and let the next story take over. First, share this video. Use the comment section to talk about the warning signs you think need to be taken more seriously. Let's make this conversation about more than just the mugshot. Let's make it about the kids, about mental health resources, and about finding the cracks in the system before they break into devastating canyons like this one. Second, if you or someone you know is struggling, if that darkness is closing in, please, there are resources. Call or text the National Mental Health Hotline. Help is out there. Don't let it become a secret you keep. Finally, hit that notification bell. I'm going to be following every legal development in Brazoria County, the competency hearings, the motions, and the eventual trial. I'll bring you the facts and the context you need to truly understand what happens when a mind breaks and takes the innocent with it. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being a community that's willing to look at the darkness so we can all walk toward the light. We'll talk again soon.